Hello there, my name is Richard McMunn from the interview training website, passmyinterview.com, and in this tutorial, I will teach you how to pass a manager interview. So if you are applying to become a manager with any company or organization, make sure you stay tuned because I promise to help you be the standout candidate. And to achieve that goal, this is what I will cover during this tutorial. Number one, I'm going to give you 9 manager interview questions that I strongly recommend you prepare for. Number 2, I will give you 2 very important tips for answering each of the interview questions correctly. Number 3, I will then give you a top scoring example answer to each of those 9 manager interview questions. These answers have been created specifically with the purpose of helping you be the standout candidate. You can't find these answers anywhere else. And number 4, I will then tell you where you can instantly download these slides and my top 30 manager interview questions and answers PDF guide. And just very quickly, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, I can help you to not just pass every job interview you ever attend, I can also help you to negotiate a salary and progress throughout your career. And with more than 29 years experience as a manager and a leader myself, most of which was in the fire service, I am best placed to help you. And please also give the video a like because that tells me you find these tutorials useful and it also motivates me to create more content for you. Thank you very much indeed. So the first manager interview question I want you to prepare for is, why do you want to be a manager? Tip number 1. Now this question comes up often during manager job interviews and it is being asked to assess your motivations for wanting to be a manager. Being a manager is not suited to everyone. You need a unique set of skills and qualities to be an effective manager. So this question is assessing your motivations. Because if you are someone who is motivated by the salary of a manager, then you probably won't be a good fit for their organization. Tip number 2. In your answer, demonstrate you have valid reasons for wanting to become a manager and talk about how your personality is aligned with the position. Here's my example answer to help you. Why do you want to be a manager? Here we go. I want to be a manager because my personality and drive are suited to the role. I find the level of responsibility that comes with being a manager appealing. I want to be a manager because I will get to push my team forward and coach and mentor my team members to help them reach their full potential. Now, there is something very rewarding about having a positive influence on someone's career. And being a manager will also give me the autonomy to make decisions that are in the best interests of my employer. Finally, I want to be a manager because no 2 days are ever the same. One day I could be leading a team meeting and the next I could be responding to a difficult operational or logistical problem that requires quick thinking skills and decisive action taking. That's a brilliant answer to that first difficult manager interview question. Why do you want to be a manager? Here's the next question. What's your management style? This is a tricky one. Tip number 1, this next management interview question is assessing 2 things. Number 1, whether you know what the different styles of management are, and number 2, whether you know your own style of management and the situations you would use it in. So tip number 2 is the best managers have a combination of different management styles, and I recommend giving several styles in your answer. Here's my example response to help you. What's your management style? My management style is a combination of authoritative, transformational, coaching, and delegative. At times, I will use a direct and authoritative management style where I simply give my team clear instructions of what needs doing and by when. Other times, I will use a transformational style of management to ensure my team responds to the needs of our customers and to meet the changing strategic goals of the business. I will use a coaching style of management to ensure my team continually learns, develops, and improves. And finally, I will use a delegative style of management when I am delegating tasks to team members based on their strengths. Now, delegation will allow me to achieve much more for the organization as opposed to trying to do everything myself. That's a brilliant answer. It shows you are confident in the management styles you have, and you then give examples of when you would use each one in management situations. Now, don't go anywhere because I still have many more questions and answers to give you. But when you're ready, you can click that link in the top right-hand corner of the video. Head straight through to my website, passmyinterview.com, and you can download these slides in addition to my top 30 manager interview questions and answers in a PDF guide. But here's the next question for you. How would you deal with a conflict in the team you are managing? Tip number one, it is very important to deal with conflict in your team as a manager confidently and quickly. If you leave the conflict, it sends a message to your team that you perhaps don't have the skills to deal with it. Tip number two, make sure you give a short but decisive answer to this question that clearly shows you have a plan for dealing with any type of team conflict whenever it occurs. So here's my example answer to help you. How would you deal with a conflict in the team you are managing? Here we go. I would deal with the conflict immediately. If you leave any type of conflict, it can get worse. And it also sends a message to the rest of your team that you don't have the confidence or the skills to deal with it. Now, to begin with, I would encourage the people who the conflict is with to try to resolve it themselves as mature and professional co-workers. Now, if they were unable to overcome it themselves, I would establish the reasons for the conflict, decide on the best course of action to take, and then provide clear instructions of what I wanted them to do to resolve it quickly. That's a great answer. A relatively short response, but it's confident, and it shows that you have the skills needed to resolve the conflict quickly. Now, this is a difficult manager interview question, but I really do recommend you prepare an answer to it. And the question is, what would you do in the first 30 days of starting work as our manager? Tip number one, this is another tricky interview question to answer correctly. And if you don't have a 30-day plan in place before your interview, you will probably not get the job. Tip number two, in your answer, show the interviewer you follow specific steps within the first 30 days of starting work as a manager for any organization. Here's my example answer to help you. What would you do in the first 30 days of starting work as our manager? Here we go. I would do 4 things in the first 30 days. I would sit down with the senior management team or company owners to ascertain my exact brief, what the strategic goals of the company are, and what was expected of me moving forward. I would then monitor my team for several weeks and take notes on their performance, the standards they work to, and their productivity levels. Now, once I had monitored their performance, I would sit down with my team collectively, discuss their good points, the areas I wanted to see improvement in, and the standards I expected them all to follow. Now, finally, I would hold individual team member performance reviews to ascertain their career goals and aspirations, any training needs they had, and to also define set goals that I wanted them to achieve. That's a brilliant answer. A fantastic answer to that question. What would you do in the first 30 days of starting work as our manager? Here's the next question. How would you deal with an underperforming member of your team? Tip number one. Now, dealing with underperformance takes decisiveness, confidence, and the ability to act quickly as a manager. Tip number two, in your response, be sure to say that you will not jump to any conclusions about the reasons for the underperformance, but that once you have established its cause, you will put a plan of action in place to resolve it. Here's my example response. How would you deal with an underperforming member of your team? Here we go. I would deal with the underperformance quickly. I would sit down with the individual to ascertain the reasons for their lack of performance. Now, I would ask them questions to get to the bottom of the issue and not jump to any conclusions. They might be experiencing personal problems at home, which is impacting their work, in which case I would support them. They may feel they have not received the right training, in which case I would coach and train them until they were fully capable in their role again. Now, if their underperformance was down to poor attitude or a lack of motivation, I may need to take a more disciplined approach to the situation before encouraging and motivating them and putting a plan of action in place to ensure they got back up to speed again quickly. That's a great, confident answer. You can see how all of these responses are going to help you pass your manager interview. Here's the next question. How do you make important decisions as a manager? Tip number one, decision making is one of the most important skills needed as a manager, so I strongly recommend you prepare an answer to this tough management interview question. Tip number 2, in your answer, talk about how you put the needs of the company first in your decision making, and where possible, you analyze information and data to help you make the right decisions. Here's my example response. How do you make important decisions as a manager? I make important decisions based on the needs of the organization I am employed by. Now, if I understand the strategic goals of the company, it is easier for me to make the right decision. I also make decisions by analyzing any facts, information, or data I have available. If you take the time to look at these things closely, it can often give you an idea as to why the problem or issue has occurred. Now, once I have the different decision options available to me, I will choose the one that is right for my employer. Finally, I am never afraid to get a second opinion from other managers or leaders in the organization. They may have a different way of looking at a problem or a challenge, which can help you to make the best decision. That's another cracking answer that's going to help you pass your manager interview. Here's the next manager interview question that I want you to prepare for, and that is, how do you delegate tasks to team members? Tip number 1, delegation is another essential skill needed to be a competent manager. Now, delegating is allocating tasks and responsibilities to team members, and I recommend you do this based on the strengths of the people in your team. Now, tip number 2, in your answer, talk about how you would undertake performance reviews with your team members to determine what they are good at doing, which will then enable you to delegate tasks with confidence. Here's my example answer. How do you delegate tasks to team members? I delegate tasks to team members based on their strengths. Now, when I first start work as a manager, I carry out performance reviews of all staff, and this empowers me to understand what they are passionate about and what they are good at doing. Then, whenever a task needs completing, I can quickly decide which team member to allocate it to. Now, when delegating, I give clear instructions on what needs doing, the standards expected, and the time frame for completion. Another really strong answer that shows you to be a confident and competent manager. Here's another difficult one. How do you see a manager's role in a team? Tip number 1, although this next manager interview question appears to be relatively easy to answer, it often catches people out, especially inexperienced managers. If you have read the job description before your interview, however, it will make it easier for you to give a confident response. Tip number 2, in your response, talk about how a manager must plan, organize, influence, and direct his or her team to achieve the company's strategic and commercial goals. So the question is, how do you see a manager's role in a team? Here's my example response. The manager's role is to plan, organize, direct, influence, and control a team of people to achieve the company's objectives. A good manager will motivate his or her team, provide the right training, recruit the right people, and delegate with confidence and resilience. A manager must also be prepared to respond to team challenges quickly and decisively, deal with conflict and underperformance, and empower their team members to become outstanding contributors to the organization's goals. That's another cracking answer. This is a tricky question. What's your biggest weakness as a manager? How do you answer this question? Well, tip number 1, this next management interview question is very difficult to respond to. Give a weakness that is a match for the job description and you won't get hired. Tip 2, instead, give a weakness that demonstrates you are an honest person, that's important, and talk about how you are taking positive action to improve so the weakness never becomes a major issue. Here we go. What's your biggest weakness as a manager? My biggest weakness as a manager has been my reluctance on occasions to delegate important tasks to inexperienced team members. However, I am aware that this weakness is not conducive to effective team working, and I am taking steps to trust new members as and when they join my team. I understand that I need to give inexperienced people the opportunity to try out new things so they can gain experience and also learn from any mistakes they might make. That's a really good answer, an honest answer to that question. What's your biggest weakness as a manager? So the next thing to do, make sure you go through to my website right now, passmyinterview.com, by clicking that link in the top right hand corner of the video, because you can then download these slides, which contains those 9 manager interview questions and answers. And in addition to that, you get my top 30 manager interview questions and answers in a PDF guide. So in total, you get 39 manager interview questions and brilliant answers that are going to help you be the standout candidate at your manager interview. Also, don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn. I've put my LinkedIn link in the description below the video. It's always great to connect with like-minded managers and professionals such as yourself. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because I can then help you not just pass every interview you ever attend. I can also help you to get a promotion, progress throughout your career, and also negotiate a salary, which is really difficult to do in an interview. I have video tutorials that will help you to get the highest salary possible. And just the final thing is, please do give the video a like. That really does motivate me to create more content for you. Thank you so much for your support, and I wish you all the best for passing your manager interview. Have a great day.